Okay, so December. Wow, where has the year gone? So I got you guys to vote on a colouring in page that I had yet to turn into an illustration. And you guys voted on this one, the Royal Witch, which I produced from my October Inktober sketches. So at the moment, I'm going through Pinterest and I'm grabbing a couple of images that I like, namely for their colour palette. Because I'll be honest, I have no idea what colour I want her to be. And unlike my other videos, I don't need to spend time coming up with the line work and the concept because that part's already been done. So primarily what we're looking at doing here is colour. So I'm going to use some of these images as inspiration for different colour schemes. Now, if you can see in the right corner, I guess, bottom right corner is my layers palette, and I've actually organized these in a way so I've got my witch character in one folder and I've got my frames behind her in another. And now I've already created a shape that encompasses the entire witch, and you can see there are layers in there that have little arrows pointing down, so they're all clipped to that shape layer. So it means that when I'm painting along here, I never go outside the edge of the witch, which is super handy. Means I don't have to worry about that. Obviously, I'm still making a mess inside, but I'm not going outside the lines. So you can see I'm sort of drawing from the colour palette of that little character in the bottom corner. I really liked the whole chest piece. I'm quickly trying another option, which is the other one in the bottom corner with the sort of brown-red skin and the blonde hair. I think I ditched this one pretty quickly because what I liked about this was the blue highlights, and I realised that my character's just not actually wearing enough to do that. It's just not super interesting. I did like something about the first one though. So now I'm trying out what the red-headed colour scheme was, and I think I ditched that like quicker than you can say nope. Mainly because I always do redheads, and I'd like here to actually try doing something different. So now I'm pulling in some colours from the purple tiefling in the top corner. I picked a lot of tiefling pictures because, horns. So I could look at how the horn colour gradiates. Something I did have in mind, though, that isn't in any of these pictures is, hey, what about green hair? Something to make her a little bit more, I guess, fae or alien. And I thought the green hair might look good against that purple skin tone. And then maybe I'll pull some of those warm colours from that bottom picture into her jewellery. So what you can see me doing here is I'm messing with the hue saturation bar on my layer, which I think is Control U. Yeah. And I do this a lot when I have no idea what kind of colour I want to have. I sit there and wiggle the bar around and see what different colours look like. And sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. It's lots of trial and error. Doing that with the background now. Just putting a little gradient on so she pops out a bit more. So I think I'm starting to like where this is going. She's still very washed out. I'm now working on filling some of those colours in the frame. Again, because I've pre-done a lot of the shapes, it means that I can just clip the colours to the shapes and I don't have to worry too much about messing around. Just there, I changed the colour of my line layer, so her lines are no longer black. I actually colorized that line layer and lightened it so that she has sort of a dark browny red. This is a thing I've been taking to doing a lot more recently, moving away from those heavy blacks. I feel like it gives it a little bit more life. Alright, so now I'm getting into a bit more of the colour painting aspect. Now I'm sorry, this one I had originally intended being super planned. Never works out that way, so what you see me doing is a lot of just mess. So I'm trying a bunch of different things with the eyes. I thought, a lot of these images I've got on the side have the eyes completely glowing, no pupil, but I didn't really want to do that, so I sort of went for a happy medium. Now I'm using a nice big textured brush to start blocking in these skin tones. Something I realized about halfway through when I was doing this was that I wanted to start painting out the line layer and start changing this from maybe less of a sketch into more of a painting. And again, having so you can see in my layers palette now how many of my layers are now clipped. So all those little arrows on the side of the layer mean that they're all clipped to that first shape, which means I don't have to worry about painting outside the lines, so I can start to concentrate on just really creating nice forms here. So I spend a lot of time on the face, again, because it's a character piece. The face sells it all, and it tells me if it's going to work, and then I can carry that through the rest of the image. Also, I could paint faces for days. I love, love, love working on those highlights and lowlights of the face. So with this textured brush that I've got, I've just messed around with a couple of different types of brushes to try and get one that creates the result that I like. It means that I can really blend the skin tones. And then I move back to a hard brush to make those sort of lips pop out and the details that I want to pop out sing. So I keep looking back at my little reference illustration that I've got in the corner there. I like the big smoky eyes. I like how the nose got treated. So I'm very much trying to emulate a lot of those brush strokes in my painting here. And then carrying it through to the rest of the image. Something I tend to do when it comes to jewellery, so I've only sort of done it on the nose piercing here, but I'll carry it through to more of the jewellery, is in the top bar when you've got your brush selected. Again, I know the video is going too fast for this, but you can actually apply a mode to your brush, which is color dodge. And when you paint over sections with that, you can do great effects with metal. Worked all this stuff out by trial and error and accident, of course. But it's a very nice way to have a little bit of metallic shine on things. Yeah, just trying to get that other eye looking like the first one. Get some epic brow game going on. I'm really digging the texture on the face now. This is something that I've not really done a whole lot of before. I tend to let my line work tell the story, and I'm starting to try and move more into this more solidly painted style. So I added a bit more warm shadows to her, start painting those hairs in. This is when you start to really see me knock back these lines, because once I paint over the lines for the hair, I think it really changes the picture. Now it should be added, normally I have my lines on a layer and then I paint everything underneath. I'm now obviously painting over the top of my line layer. But because my line layer is clipped to that shape that I've made, that is the silhouette of my witch, it's still all contained within it. I really should do like a specific video on clipping one day, because it changed my life when my teacher told me about this. Yeah, she's really starting to feel like something special here. Just trying to get that hair wrapping around the horn. At this point, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the horns, so I sort of popped back to the fur a little bit, mess around. Again, like I said, I was going to have a process here, and then I just started to go with my gut. As you can see, I've turned to a textured round brush, and I've put it on color dodge so that I can just paint those metallic beads over the top. And you see I'm getting that metal effect I talked about earlier. Get it in on the bangles and that, like, our Eye of Sauron pendant. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, teal, I'm feeling the teal right now. I think it's because teal is complementary to those warm tones that I like. So I'm adding that warmth in on the necklace that I liked from that bottom image. So try and get some nice rough furry texture going on. Really just messing that in there. I really lost track of time painting this one. I really, really enjoyed it. So I had to stop and go, oh my God, I haven't had food. But when I did walk away and come back, I went, oh, you know what I haven't done in a while? Flipped the canvas. And lo and behold, she was very skewed, which means my proportions were off, which is not a great thing to have done this far into a painting. So what I did was I copied my folder with all of my layers, so I wasn't directly applying this transform sequence to my, I copied it so I could transform one folder, and if I didn't like it, I could go back to the original. So I'm really trying to correct the proportions here, and so I'm flipping it constantly back and forth, so that I still have the personality I liked in the image before it, but that the proportions weren't so skew-if. So I'm constantly flipping back to that folder below in my layers palette, just to see what it looked like originally, to make sure that I am making it better, not worse. It was trying to not destroy my picture too much, and knowing that I had that safety blanket. But that being said, you should never be too precious about your work if you know something can make it better. And that was the case, that once I realized that her proportions were off, I couldn't not do something about it, because then I'd forever know. Yeah, so I'm really happy I did that. So now she doesn't look so bad when I flip her. But then I had to go back in and start painting corrections, because I sort of had a couple of seams break there. So go back and fill them in. So now this has become my new shape layer. So I'll start clipping new layers to this shape layer. So again, I won't paint outside her lines. Well, her exterior lines, anyway. Now, I was having a look at these horns that my favourite reference here, the Purple Girl, has, and I noticed that the shading is quite different to my approach, and I thought, hey, let's give that a crack and see what it looks like. Really get those highlighted tips and like shadows in the middle of the horn, where I'd sort of heavily highlighted it on the other side, like you can see. And you know what? It's better. I really like it. And then start bringing in those blue shadows to sort of reflect the background as well. I'm really feeling it. So what do? I copied the layer, transformed it, and fit her in on the other side. So then I don't have to do the same amount of painting. Obviously, I can quickly paint it in to make it fit. Though at the moment it's sort of still looking a bit hinky, but clearly I got distracted with hair. So I moved on to hair. I do this a lot. I'll jump around just to keep my brain fresh, particularly if areas are frustrating me. I'll move to another area and come back and look at it later. Because otherwise you find you'll overwork one section and completely get lost. So now I've noticed, because early on I had sort of a warm gradient coming up from her belly, she's ended up with a very purple face and red hands. So I'm trying to even those skin tones out just a little bit, and at the same time work on the shadows in the hair so that those hands look like they are actually sitting on top of the hair. Yeah, it's hard to keep track of what my brain was actually doing. A lot of it's subconscious stuff that I've learned over the years. Stuff that I just go, I know that'll look good, or no, it won't. I've often been told that the difference between, being a newbie at this and being an experienced pro is you just have to make less calculated guesses because you've got more experience. When I was new, I had to make a lot more guesses and trial and error this stuff, and it took me a lot longer to get through that process. Whereas now I have a better idea of the sorts of things that will work. That being said, I still spend ages trying things out, particularly if it's something new. Now, something I've been eyeing on is that tattoo over my reference's face, and I was like, yeah, I want some of that. That looks good. So I made a new layer to try it out, of course, in case I didn't like it. And I tell you what, I like it. May have gotten a bit carried away. So I ditched my references now because I don't need it. And my tried and tested faithful trick of adding in some paper texture just to break up that digitally brushstrokey goodness is always part of my finishing process. So I drop that over the top with a layer mode, knock it back. Yeah, juicy. I love it. I'm so happy. I think this was a great way to break out of my master's project, because that's been dominating my last few months, and it's been a while since I've been able to do anything so personal. And I'm really, really glad I got to do this one for you guys. I think she's super cool, and I might need to even write a story about her. Thanks for watching. Look forward to doing next month's. Bye.